Okay, hello, welcome back everyone, and people who will be watching later, welcome back. I'm Phil. This is Discover Tai Chi for Limb Power members, and we wend our way through different forms of Tai Chi, Qigong. We revisit themes frequently, and we're looking at a theme that comes from Chen Tai Chi, the originating family and place in China, because there's an actual place called Chen Village where we know that these movements come from. We call it seaweed, but in essence, it's the opening movements to the Chen Tai Chi form. Again, we can enjoy these seated or standing, so you know the rules. Take your places, get yourself comfortable in whatever way that means to you. I will do my mix of seated and standing. I think I'll stand up first, and then I'll join people seated in a mo. So, okay. Don't really need my legs that much for this. What you need is hands. Okay, so that's quite a good view. So should we just start off? We'll do a little progression just to get ourselves into the swing of things, first of all. So we'll start off with Qi Shi. Just that simple lift and lower of the hands. If I turn a little bit to the side, you can see I've got that very soft lift and lower, just like that. Could be a breath in. You're letting go all of that tension that's built up through the day, physically as well as mentally, with every drop of the hands. We'll do one more and then we'll do our next little progression. And here we open out the hands, opening hearts, and then close. And see if you can drop the hands all the way down as far as the fingertips. If you sat down, you might have to avoid armrests and things like that. But see if you can get this total sense that the hands have dropped all the way down to the fingertips, as they say. Then open out. And down. Let's do that one more time as well before we move on to the next progression, for which I will need to move backwards as I do so. Try not to trip over, Phil. Here we go. We're lifting the hands up overhead, turn the palms out, and then down like so. Now you know what we're doing. I'll come back into view. So hands come up, over the top and down. Very simple. Nice, simple, three-stage progression. Again, what we want is a very nice long drop of the hands all the way down to the fingertips at the bottom before we pick up. More often than not, we tend to cut such movements off, but I want to see if you can get right into the fingertips before you pick the hands up. See if you can have that full sense of relaxation on the down. Wonderful. Okay. We also need a bit of weight shift in this upcoming seaweed movement. So again, seated or standing. If we're standing, aim for a bit of a wider stance if possible. If you wish, you can have your hands on your hips. And we're just shifting weight. Done it many times before, but it's something I do every day. Every morning, making coffee in the kitchen. And I just begin to get my weight moving. Kind of gets my brain into the day, recognizing that this is going to be something that it needs to do. Manage my body weight as I move around. And this side to side movement is so important, especially when it comes to stability, whether we're seated or standing. So again, if you are seated and watching, again, this sideways stability is so important. Okay, so now we've got that. We can begin to make up our seaweed movement. I'm going to give you a little demonstration first of all. So if you want to watch, you can do, or if you want to just kind of follow along, you can do as well. Just know that the movement kind of, once we've done Qi Shi, starts by going to your left. Again, I'm never quite sure how I come out on the other side of your screen. Am I mirrored? Am I not mirrored? Does it make a difference? Probably not, but here we go. So we're going to do Qi Shi, just up and down. So as I say, you can either watch and just get a feel for the movement or follow along. So my hands have come down, they lightly touch a tabletop, and then we just sweep them to the left. And then we're going to turn, or the left hand's going to turn, and I sweep them gently back, but they're lifting up to the right. And then I'm going to roll as if rolling the ball, and then sweep them gently back to the left. And then I'm going to just come back to the center, lower the hands, like so. Get the idea? So we've got a sweep, and a sweep, and a sweep. We can do it the other way, again, as a nice little exercise. But let's just start off with that for now, and then we'll think about swapping things and what have you. If you ever feel like going on YouTube and looking at Chen Tai Chi, you will see variations of this movement in all different forms of its glory, because people add their own kind of flavor or their own little idiosyncrasies and all sorts of things. So it's not a standard move as such, it's something that you can be creative with. Shall we have a go again together? So a little lift. But this is nice for hands because we're not demanding too much, but we want a sense of connection. So I'm going to the left. And then turn that left hand. It's as if it wraps around, and then there's a lift diagonally up to the right. Here's my right hand. See my fingers? They roll around. And then there's a sweep across to the left again. And then we just bring the hands back to the center and down. Okay. I'm just having a little move from foot to foot. As I do so, you may want to do the same, or if you sat down, a bit of side to side. So you might have noticed that there's a little bit of weight shift as we head in each respective direction. So see if you can have the sense that it's that weight shift that actually gets your hands in motion after Qi Shi. Have a go again. Here we go. Lifting up and down. So as I do a little turn and weight shift, that's what gets the hands in motion. And then as I do a little turn and shift to the right, the hands follow. And then a little turn and shift to the left gets the hands in motion. Does that make sense? And then we can just let the hands relax. So it's the body that kind of begins to initiate the move rather than the hands first. It's a bit subtle. It's kind of sometimes a backwards way of thinking about how we move, but it's kind of indicative of Tai Chi that more often than not, the movement that we see in the hands actually begins quite subtly with a shift of weight or a little bit of rotation as well, all at the same time of the body and torso. And then the hands just kind of float in that direction almost. Ready? Let's go again. Qi Shi. So we come down. So get the body in motion first, and the hands all follow, and then to the right, a lift, and then to the left, and then back to the center, and the hands come back, and then because we come to a rest, they come to a rest. So in Tai Chi philosophy, from which some of these movements have their origins, so to speak. In Tai Chi philosophy, we've got the state of the universe before things came into being, a bit like what came before the Big Bang in the Big Bang Theory. Kind of, we just don't know. The Chinese, or the ancient Chinese, called this Wu Qi. Simply means nothingness. That's it. Nothingness. We simply don't know, but all we know is that there's kind of nothing, and it's all at rest, and it's not moving. And then, shall we say, the Big Bang happens, and everything's in motion now. So that nothingness is called Wu Qi, and everything now that's moving is called Tai Chi. And those two opposites in themselves, Wu Qi and Tai Chi, actually represent a Tai Chi in themselves, i.e. two opposites, resting and moving. So that's what we're doing here. We start from Wu Qi, not moving, and then as soon as we get going, Qi Shi, we're now in Tai Chi. We're moving dynamically, a little turn to the left, turn to the right, and my hands lift, turn back to the left, and my hands go in that direction, and then come back to the center. We come to a rest, and the last thing to settle, like little dust particles in the room, are the hands. So that element of Chen, or downwardness, or sinking, or settling is a really important part of this philosophy as well. Not to be confused with Chen, the Tai Chi form. Can get confusing. Okay, so we've been going to the left, then the right, then the left, but we can also go to the right, left, right. Okay, same movement, just starting a different direction, but the same principles. Shall we have a little go? So here we go. Qi Shi. Down. Only this time I get the movement going to the right. Then to the left with a lift. Then I'm turning to the right this time. And then bringing my hands back. And once again, as I come to stillness, my hands are the last thing to settle down. Okay? Let me sit down. I said I would sit down, join people who are seated. We'll continue on that little exploration to the right, though, first of all. But just to demonstrate, sat down. So when we start seated, we can either start with the hands on the knees, or if you've got room, hanging loosely by the sides. I'll start with them hanging loosely. Same thing, everybody. Just lift the hands into Qi Shi. So we're in motion, we're in Tai Chi. Little turn to the right. So again, it's more about the shoulders if we're sat down. And then as we're leading the hands up to the left, and then to the right again, it's about the shoulders and the head leading the movement. And that's a really nice cue as well to think about yourselves turning and looking in the direction in which you would like your hands to be following. Okay, so see if you can do that on this next go. Subtle stuff, but this is kind of the essence of Tai Chi. Here we go again. Qi Shi. And a settle. And then a little look to the right, and that gets the hands in motion. And then a turn and a little look to the left gets the hands moving in that direction. And then a little turn and look back to the right gets the hands in motion. And then back to the center, like so. Have you noticed, maybe you have, that when we do our little turns, we turn and then stop, and the hands kind of follow a little bit later. And then if we were to not move from that point of view, in essence, what should happen is that the hands just settle. Okay. So there's these active moments of movement, and then there's almost a little pause, the hands catch up, and then we kind of move into the next direction. So again, this is quite subtle stuff, but if you get an idea for it and a feel for it in day-to-day life, it can really help our balance, because it helps us slow down a bit, makes us a bit more mindful, to use that word, about our balance and how we're going to move. And actually, instead of reaching first for things, we actually think about our position in relation to, say, the kettle full of boiled water, or reaching for a cup. We might be a bit more mindful about that without making it too onerous. Okay, shall we have a go again? Chi. So just see if you can have this sense. As the hands begin to settle, if we weren't to do anything else, they would just keep falling. We've got to do a little turn to the right. And then a turn to the left to keep the hands in motion. And then a turn to the right again. And then back to the center. And then simply because we've come to a rest, the hands will come to a rest. Okay. So let's have a look at hands. Again, very useful way to think about it in Chen Tai Chi. In the center of each palm, I may have talked about this before, we've got an important acupressure or acupuncture point called Lao Gong. It's connected with the heart via the pericardium. That's what it's called, pericardium 6, if I remember right from my studies. And in Chen Tai Chi, basically, there's a lot of kind of speaking, i.e. the palms are not necessarily completely opposite, but there's a sense of them kind of having a communication, a talking, a kind of sense of that we're in this together, and that whatever happens, we're always connected. Okay. So I'm just throwing that in as an idea for you. So let's go again. So we've got our source of our movement in our bodies. But we've also now got this sense that once the hands are in motion with a turn, let's go to the right, that the hands are kind of connected. Turning to the left. And then turning back to the right, like so. And then back to the left. And all the time we've got this kind of subtle connection. You might think of it in your mind's eye as having a loose silk scarf between the hands, but that silk scarf is connected. You might think of holding something in the hands very lightly. In fact, there's a whole set of exercises in China where they use something a bit like a wooden rolling pin, but they hold it loosely within their hands, and they move it around and do all kinds of exercises. And the trick is not to drop the rolling pin. A, because it makes a terrible noise. B, it might drop on your toe. And C, yeah, it's not the aim of the exercise. The aim of the exercise is to hang on without hanging on to that rolling pin. Okay, so what we'll do Chi Shi, and then we'll go back to our left, okay, and do our little zigzag. When we come back, as the hands settle, we'll pick up again to Chi Shi, and then we'll do the right side as well. So Now we've got a little bit of symmetry going on. I'll do it once, sat down, and then I'll join you standing. Okay, so here we go. Follow along. So we're going to pick the hands up, Chisha. So don't forget, we're going to the left in a little moment. Here we go. A little turn and sweep to the left. Now we're coming back up to the right. All the while those hands connected, then to the left. And then as we turn back to the center, the hands come with us, and then they begin to settle. And almost just as they're about to land, we lift them up again. Chisha. And down they come again, but this time we're heading to the right. So to the right. Obviously to the left now. Up. And then to the right. And then once again, we turn back to the center. And then the hands settle. Only this time they really are going to settle back down. Okay. Seaweed. Reason why we call it seaweed is we kind of want to have that feel. You might have watched a David Attenborough program about the oceans and underwater and seen big kelp beds or seaweed beds that are all swishing in the swells underwater. That's the kind of feel that we're hoping that you're getting, that sense of seaweed moving very languorously in the water. Okay, so I'm standing up. I've got a little bit of a wider stance because I'm going to shift some body weight as well as these little turns and see if we can get the hands in motion a bit more. So in essence, think of the swell as being a bit more forceful. Okay, ready? Chisha, off we go. We'll do the same as before. To the left, first of all, as we let the hands settle. Wait for it, and then here we go. So I'm going to let them move a bit more. Then up to the right, a bit more with weight shift. Then to the left, a bit more weight shift. And then bring them back to the center. And then let them settle. But just before they come all the way down past the hips, pick them up again. Let them settle. But now have in your mind's eye to the right. Here we go. Bit of a weight shift. To the left. Up they come. To the right. Sweep. And then back to the center. And down. Good job. So those really are the opening movements of Chen Tai Chi. This very sweepy, languorous kind of movement. As I say, if you ever go and look at Chen Tai Chi on YouTube, you'll see all kinds of interpretations. People will add in little swirls and all kinds of affectations and things like that. Because you can. There's no other good reason. Ready? Here we go again. Up we come. See if you can have the sense that the body lifts the hands. Then the body settles, and it's the hands that settle. Then it's a lilt to the left. Then to the right with a little bit of a lift. Then to the left again, sweeping. And we bring the hands back. And they settle. And then we pick them up again. So again, have a sense that the body picks the hands up. Down they come. Only this time we're heading to the right. Here we go. Little weight shift. Then to the left, weight shift and a little turn. Back to the right, weight shift. And then back and down. It's quite nice. I hope that feels quite nice through the shoulders, that things should feel very relaxed. And it's capturing, in essence, what we want out of Tai Chi. Should we have one more go? Okay. Something hopefully you can practice. Very simple, but I think I hope you appreciate that actually there's a lot to kind of think about at the same time. It's not just wishy-washy hands. There's a lot of subtlety going on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Off we go. Lift. So there's a sense that the whole body lifts, then settles. And then there's a sweep to the left. And then to get the hands rising, there's got to be a sense of rising as well as a turn. And then a sweep that goes horizontally to the left. And then we come back, sweep. And then because we come to a rest, the hands have nothing to do but begin to settle. We catch them almost with a little sweep to the right this time. Up to the left. Then back to the right. And then once again, we lead the hands back. Fab. Okay. One more subtlety. Okay. Last one. In order to get going at the very first sweep, be it to the left or to the right, it's a good idea to just do a little bit of the opposite. Okay, so if we're going to be sweeping to the left, for instance, we start off by catching the hands with a little turn to the right to get them in motion. Does that make sense? It's a bit like if I was throwing a ball, I would go backwards to throw the ball forwards. Here, we want to go to the opposite direction just a little bit to get the hands in motion. So here we go. Last time. Chisha. Down, so a little to the right and then to the left to get them in motion. Then rising up to the right, then to the left. Then back to the center. And then just let them settle. Chin. But then a little to the left to get them to go right. Get the idea? And then up to the left side, sweep them around to the right, and then back and down to finish. There you go. Seaweed, as we call it, but really it's the opening movement of Chen Tai Chi. And we've just done those first initial movements and we've practiced them on each side. It gives us something quite nice to practice. So let's bring things to a close because I see that we're getting past 7 o'clock. So again, we'll do a little 3-stage progression on this closure. First of all, we'll just push the hands forward and up and draw in 3 times. If I turn to the side a little bit, you can see that I push and draw in. And then let the hands settle. And then push the fingers forwards and up. And settle. I'll turn back to the camera. This time we lift the hands outwards and up, but fold at the elbows and down. And then once again, lifting with a breath in if you wish, followed by a breath out. Once again. And the final one in this progression is the hands come up, overhead-ish, and then down. And again. Last one, down to finish. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me this evening. If you're watching later, thank you as well. We'll be here next week. We might continue our journey into seaweed if that's piqued your interest, to see how we can develop this as a movement. Let me come and stop the recording, and I will bid you a good evening as we go.